Alright, and welcome back. This is going to be my first video of the rudder series. As I've mentioned in the previous videos, I'm waiting for the skin and the rear spar doubler for my vertical stabilizer because I'd made mistakes on those. And so I figured I'd continue on to the next step while I wait for the parts. I believe this is over the holiday weekend, Thanksgiving week, and so it obviously, the Vans is not open on the holidays, obviously, so it takes a little bit longer to get the parts that I needed, but that's fine. I have plenty to do while I wait. So this part here is the support brackets for all of the stiffeners on the rudder. Essentially, the rudder is got a small or a bit of a skeleton to it, where it has a forward spar and then a couple ribs at the top and a rib at the bottom. But all the ribs in the middle are just stiffeners that you attach to the skins, and then you put them together as you put the skins together. So here I'm setting up for the bandsaw. This is a bandsaw that I picked up at Home Depot. It was like 140 bucks. It's inexpensive but does a job well. The biggest pain was trying to find the metal blade for it. But once I got that special ordered, everything was good to go with it. And as you can see, I'm trying to integrate my GoPro camera a little bit more to get some more close-up videos of what I'm actually doing, so it's not just an overhead shot the entire time. I'll probably have to play with the frames per second settings on the camera to try to make it a little less choppy when I speed it up in the editing program. But here I am taking each support bracket, and the wheel closest to the camera is an actual grinding wheel. The wheel furthest from the camera is a 3M polishing wheel, and so I'll grind off the excess material on the first and then polish it up and deburr it with the polishing wheel on the other side there. And so you can see me go back and forth with each bracket, cleaning up all the edges and getting them ready to attach to the rear spar, or I'm sorry, the rudder spar. The whole process with the rudder is it's fairly easy but difficult at the same time. Like I said, the skeleton itself is a single spar in the front, and then it's a rib or two at the top and a rib at the bottom. And there's about 8 or 9 ribs in the middle that are made of stiffeners, which are essentially kind of like a rib cut in half. So you attach each half of the rib to each respective skin. And so what you'll do is you'll shape them, and then you'll back rivet them to the skins, and then as you're attaching the skins together around the skeleton, you rivet them together. And I think the easiest way, or the reason it's done this way, is because the rudder is so narrow. There's no way you're going to be able to get in there and rivet the ribs to the skins. So that's what the back riveting does, is it allows you to attach the stiffeners to the skins and rivet them in place. And then as you're going along, you'll see me in the future videos here kind of fold the skin up and using a blind rivet gun to rivet the two halves together as you put the skins together. And it's a task, but it wasn't terribly difficult, and I did it all myself. The book recommends you get someone to help you, but you can do it by yourself. That the first rib that you put together is kind of difficult, making sure you set it correctly, but once you get that set, then the rest of it goes pretty easily. So here I'm looking for the stiffeners themselves, and again they come 2 stiffeners in one, and so you end up cutting each of these in half and then trimming some of the excess material off. And then on each of the ends you actually have to take a straight edge steel ruler and mark a line, and you'll kind of see a little bit of a tip, like an arrow kind of sticking out from each end there. Well, you have to continue that line of the angled piece to the end of the stiffener there. Excuse me. And you'll see right there, you can kind of start to see that they're right there. I'm cutting them in half, and then you'll see here in a little bit where I'll take a ruler and mark a straight line, and that's where I'll trim the excess off. And what that's doing is shaping the pieces to fit where the rudder comes together at the trailing edge. So here I'm just cutting off some of the excess material and then going over to the grinder and again grinding off the excess material from the cut and then polishing and deburring each piece as I go. So as I'm editing this video, I'm nearly complete with the rudder. I've riveted all the ribs together, and including all of the stiffeners and attaching the stiffeners together to make ribs in the rudder. Excuse me. What I'm working on now is the trailing edge, which is the most critical aspect of the rudder assembly is getting that trailing edge straight, and it's an interesting process. We'll see how it turns out. It's pretty easy to mess up, and it's got a pretty tight tolerance as far as how wavy you can allow it to be and not affect your flying controls. But it's so far it's coming along, and I should be completed by the end of this weekend, I think, with the rudder itself. Now the other aspect of it is the forward end of the rudder is the skins come past the front spar of the rudder where it attaches to the vertical stabilizer. And you have to take those skins and you have to bend them in towards each other and then cleco and then blind rivet those pieces together. And a lot of people will take a PVC pipe and drill holes at each hole in the skin and cleco the pipe to the skin and then roll it with that PVC pipe and to get leverage and get an even twist on the skin, forward into the skin to roll it into each other. And that's what I'll be doing next week when I finish it up. So right here you see that I'm getting ready to trim off the excess tip of each piece. And again, this is the material that I'm cutting off here will make it come to a point so that it can make the trailing edge of the rudder where the trailing edge meets. And then the other part of the trailing edge, there's a wedge that goes along the entire trailing edge that you have to both drill to allow for the rivet, but then you also have to countersink it. But you have to countersink it perpendicular to the surface. Well, the wedge itself is at an angle that's set by the trailing edge of the skins, so you have to kind of work it to get it set up correctly, and it takes a little bit of work. The easiest way is to basically take a piece that you trim off the end of it and double it over to make it a squared off piece and use that in your drill press. And you'll see that in the video coming up. It was a nice day out, so I opened up the garage to allow some fresh air in. It's November here in Arizona, but it's still 70, 80 degrees outside while I'm doing this. It's just now starting to cool down a little bit during the day. It's mid 60s or so, but it gets down to 30s, 40s at night. Or I guess not quite the 30s yet, but it seems like it. It's starting to get cold. But it's all the way into November and actually into December before it really starts to get chilly at all. So it's nice to open up the garage and let some fresh air in and cool it down in there. So I'm going to go ahead and let this video end here. Again, those that continue to watch these videos, I appreciate it. If you can do me a favor, click that like button. And if you have any questions or comments or concerns, as I have always said before, please leave it down below and I'll be more than happy to get to you with it. If nothing else, get me looking something up and try to find out what I can for you on whatever question you may have if I don't have the answer for you. So this is a learning process for me as I go along, and like I said, hopefully you're learning something from this as well, or at least getting an idea of what you might be getting into should you decide to build your own Vans aircraft. So we'll see you next time around.